Good morning, base tubers. It is, what is today, Wednesday? It's the week before Christmas. Oh my God, it's a fucking nightmare out there with traffic. You don't realize that a lot of people just get the rest of the month off and they have nothing better to do. So usually when I go out to the store this time of day, which is about 10 a.m., it's just the old people, evil eyeing me. Because they're like, what are you doing here? You're too young to be retired. I'm like, not yet. Next year. This is our space. July 1995. Pretty girls. Are they girls? You tell me. Bazooka Joe. There we go. A new one. Fultron. Because it's fun to jam. Well, and if you're Techmaster PEB, it's time to jam. Who is this? Use the... Oh, that's nothing. Sound off. Pure Mexican. That would be great if it said Mexican. I would have loved... I'm like, somebody in Mexico... Lots of people in Mexico love bass. Love woofers. I get clients that drive up here. They're like, will you help me? I was like, yeah, I will help you. What is that? That's the Mean Machine one. Sapphire. Again, I like the... I don't know. I guess it's just the look of the Sapphire subs and the amps. So I don't know. They just looked rad. They're of course too expensive for me. So what does this say? It says Xtant's first auto sound vehicle, convertible. That's a challenge. So, but they've conquered that now. What this is fucking 30 years later, with Larry F at Cicada, also of Phoenix Gold, by the way. So I'll put a link to Cicada Audio. It's just cicadaaudio.com. So I remember this one. They had something like this with the Iasca 1991 finals over there at Angel Field in Tempe, and the Hollywood Sound Labs one. So, and one of my other favorites was the Hollywood Sound Labs with the Kevlar yellow cones. Those were badass. I thought they were really cool. Of course, I couldn't afford those. What I could afford was the Super Pro version, which was still a pretty good woofer. And I think I rebadged a few of those with my dust cap and sold them for home audio. It's like a 6 ohm woofer. It's kind of a weirdo. EPX blah 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 blah. Precision power. If we build it, you will buy it. That really should have been their slogan. Look at that. Unfair advantage, a 5-year fucking warranty. Well, yeah, when this costs $15 to make and they're selling it to you for $300, you better bet it has a fucking 5-year warranty. Parts Express, Metro Auto Alonic. What is this? Oh, learn to be a professional installer. Yep, no need. Just try and try again. What is it? Licensed by the State of New Jersey Education Department. All that means, just so you know, and this goes for college as well, you can actually look at Nerdy Girls. So Parker Mayer. Oh, by the way, I got some good news, which is that the patent office let me know that the Nerdy Girls claim to the Robot Underground is up for opposition. Yay! So now I get to flood them with all the proof that shows that they are fucking liars and pieces of shit. So, but speaking of which, Parker Mayer's dad is an instructor, teacher, and that's really what makes, how do you say, that's what makes a subject academic, is that you have a course curriculum, you have steps, you show a line by line, was it like the Mormons used to say, line upon line, precept on precept, on how to build your way to being knowledgeable about a subject. And if you have that all laid out, presto, now it's a course curriculum. And that's why a lot of colleges will have a bunch of weirdo courses of stuff that you've never heard of. I mean, it's applicable and that knowledge is out there, but just because you know a lot about something doesn't mean the subject is important. And that, colleges just want your money. You always got to look at what people's motivation is. Okay. Before you buy something. And that would tell you a little bit about the value. Okay. So like in real estate, they talk about buying distressed properties. So, and what they tell you to do, or at least the seminars that I've been in, sponsored by Rich Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, is to look for like the best kind of properties you find are not actually posted for sale, or they've been posted for sale for a very long time because there's a reason why somebody doesn't want them, or there's a reason why nobody's bought it, right? And so you find out what that reason is, and then you negotiate, a discount on it or whatever. And that's where you make your money. You make your money on the purchase, not on the sale. The sale is like gravy, right? So, but I'll get into that real estate shit later. Anyway, there was a billionaire today that my next video I want to talk about Mormonism and about my struggles of freedom and the paperwork that you got to do in order to stop being a Mormon. So, but back to audio. So that's a little easier on the brain because look at that. It's so beautiful. It's just gold and you can worship it like a golden calf. And then, and tell you what, I guarantee Moses will not come down and throw tablets at you. Well, he throws his tablets down so he can pick up his gun from his cold, dead hand. XTR. I think, yeah, we've seen this ad before. Just stereotypical things about people that love music. Of course, this is even as weird and as ugly as this guy is. Most people do not look as pretty as he does. So, in-car audio, just so you know, in case you didn't know, I've had thousands upon thousands of interactions with people about the subject of audio. So I feel like I know what I'm doing. But if I don't, by all means, correct me. I am definitely open to learning and to finding out stuff that I don't know. I'm not one of those guys that knows everything and you can't defeat me. Like, no, fucking tell me. Yeah, this was cute. Car alarm goes off and then it fills with smoke. So the problem is this becomes like an insurance nightmare. And there was also another one that would it would like basically they hooked up a taser to the door handle. So when you lift up the door handle, you're not, there's no reason for anybody to lift up on the door handle. Bzz, 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 and we get you. So, but once your insurance company finds out that you're doing this to your car, no. They're like, no, we don't want to get sued. We don't want you to get sued. A sure thing. Ha ha ha, sure would. Again, good amps. I think owned by Audiovox now. They're just regular amps. It's just one of those brands. They call it a zombie brand because it doesn't really do anything, but they still sell products, like good for them. Big power review, taking 3 high voltage is relative, amps to the mat to see what they got, what it takes. I'm sure I read that wrong. There they got Earthquake, AutoTek, and Kickers. AutoTek, 38 volts. Good job. So it's kind of hard to compare apples to apples. 400 meg. I don't even know what that is now. It's like the input or the output. All of them, of course, look the same because they're all built with the same parts. Here's the kicker. And then what we're really looking for is that, it doesn't have it. You're supposed to be like a summation of what's awesome. And I don't know. To me, they're all the same. So it's okay. So, and if you talk to an engineer, and what do they call it? An engineer worth his salt, he'll tell you the same thing. Oh, and then he's got to be honest. So typically you want to talk to someone that used to work for a company because then they're willing to tell you secrets, right? Like I have. There's lots of former engineers that worked at PPI, Rockford, Orion, Xtant, Esoteric, Diamond Audio, who all live here in the Valley. And then they go on to a real job because the market for that stuff has crashed. So it's not as lucrative as it used to be. And so then they end up having to get a real engineering job for like, was it like Bob? Was it Bob? Rick. Okay, so there's Bob and Rick Fix. So Rick Fix is a friend that I made. He used to be an engineer. Him and his brother used to be engineers at PPI, and now he works for. He worked for. It was a brushless motor RC motor company here in Tempe, and they ended up getting into side projects. One thing that I learned about business owners is they typically are very entrepreneurial, and they'll get into stuff just because the entry threshold is relatively low. So what he has Rick doing, last time I checked, this was a couple of years back, was doing some plastic extrusions for very specific OEM wiring harnesses. So the reason why he got into that, and the reason why Rick was available for that, is just because he's a smart guy. He's a good engineer, and you basically know the basics, and then you get into the details about what the engineering requirements are. And that's, again, I'm not an engineer. I'm a lot like you would say Elon, where you just read a lot about it and you go, okay, I got the idea, and then you can design stuff from there. So technically, I'm like a audio designer, not an engineer, because in some states you got to be an engineer to be called an engineer, and to be an engineer you got to get a degree in engineering. Okay, just so you know that. So, but anyways, Rick, last time I checked, was working doing extrusions for that, and they had him build up the whole machine. There's this huge room full of plastics, and he would end up making these. And anyways, it pays better. And so, as an engineer, he still got bills to pay. I think he's such a good boy. He would have dinner with his mom every Sunday, and but I haven't talked to him in a while. Maybe I should do a follow-up and wish him well. So, but he told me lots and lots of really great secrets about PPI, and about where they got this wafer cone, and the secrets about that it wasn't the production model that went in the Alma Gates demo truck, which he felt was kind of fibbery, and it is. But if it's for marketing, it's okay. So, but that's just so you know, that's where I got a lot of this stuff. A lot of the stuff I had on hunch. I'm like looking at it. It's, again, it's about my video that's coming up about Mormonism, is where you have a hunch because the observable facts do not equal one another, right? Versus, there's 8 pieces of gum in this pack. No, there isn't. But you got to have faith that the other 4 exist. You just can't see them. When you have enough faith, you'll see the other 4, right? That's the kind of shit that is in religion and also in car audio. They talk about the nuances and of blah 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 and blah blah blah, and it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all the same bullshit. So, is it pretty? Yes. Is it expensive? Fuck yes. Does it cost a lot to make? Actually, no, it doesn't. But a lot of times, in order to get into the position that a company is in, it requires a significant investment. I wouldn't say a large investment, especially on today's standards, but it's a significant investment. Typically, if you start out with something like 10 or even 20 grand, you can do pretty good. So something like what Scott Dilbeck did with Power Hog, or what Oscar Maldonado has done with Mr. Music Man. So Oscar used to be, I think, a line cook at Denny's. Yeah, and he was like into audio, and then he just started poking around on Alibaba, and after a couple of, what happens is you get a cycle. So let's say you put in 5 grand, and then you're able to get out, let's just do a real easy math, 10. So now you get out 10, and you spend a little bit on overhead and rent and things like that, or whatever, new panties or whatever you want to get. So now you have 8,000. So then you push in 8,000 and you get out 16. Again, you take off a little bit of overhead, so you're left with, say, 14,000. So now you take that 14,000, put it in, you get 28,000. See how quickly that escalates? And then on top of that, you're building a brand, which is what he's doing. So I don't have any interest in building a brand like that. I want to do, it's a lot of hard work. And I'm already stressed out and full of hard work. So, but just so you guys know, I would love to help you do that and help develop products. The trick is to find a real niche in the market. And it's very, very difficult because it's so flooded. Like, one of the things they talk about in real estate is, if you want to make serious money, be in real estate. And one of the great things about being in real estate is that anybody can do it. That's also one of the most terrible things that can be about real estate, is that anybody can do it. So every Tom, Dick, and Harry and gross thief and thug and piece of shit can be in real estate, music business, movie business, all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes you find those people, and it's not very pleasant when you find them. So this is pictures. I always like the look of their stuff, but again, it was too expensive for me to buy. So I never, it's weird. It's like when you hear about something that is awesome from somebody else, that's word of mouth advertising. And you definitely want to find out more about it. You're like, really? Oh man, I would love to hear that. And you get in their vehicle and you're like, yeah, it is sound good. Then you look at the price tag, and then, when they want, $300-400 per woofer, and you make $7 an hour from the government, they don't wash very well. And so that's why, for me, what I've done is, of course, this doesn't cost $300 or $400 to make. It cost about $10 to $20 to make. And so I went to the source and started looking at the sources, and I go, oh, okay, I see it. So this woofer costs $10 to make, and then it's sold to a dealer or distributor for, let's say, $50. And then they turn the $50 into anywhere from $100 to $300. See how that works? So, but that's the method of distribution. And what's great about the internet is it disrupted all that. So now you can get this made for $10 as somebody like Oscar Maldonado or Scott Dilbeck. So you get it made for $10, and then you sell direct, right? And if the market price for this is $350, all you got to do is say, look, bro, you look like a cool guy. You could be on our team. How does $300 sound? And you go, $300? Wow, that's $50 off. And then they got you for $300. So again, that's basic capitalism. And it's not, you don't want to base it on, like, you don't want to feel like you got ripped off, if possible, even though I felt like, again, the same spidey sense that was telling me, like, I don't really think that, this thing costs $350. I think the costs on it are much lower. And then when you finally look at how much it does really cost from China, what's really great is when you find out the China markup. Chinese make good money on these, but they only want to do, like, it only becomes worth something if they can, build out 100 or 200 or 1,000 of these. And so then that's when everybody over in China makes money, when they can pay all the workers, they can pay the engineers, and, and all the QC and all the other stuff that you want to get included in the product so that you have a really quality product. So it actually does take, again, it's a significant investment, but the return on investment is awesome. And it's just a lot of little transactions rather than one big transaction like you see with something like heavy equipment or real estate. So again, so something like this will cost you about $15. And right now the market is saturated on these, and they're all made by the same factory. And typically you want to find something. And also, nobody's willing to pay a lot for an EQ or crossover for dash anymore. Typically you find these for about $50. So they're turning $15 into $50. And even that's questionable because the price starts to creep down depending on the supply. So if you just imported 100 of these, you're going to want to move them quickly so you can get a return on your investment. So if the eBay price or Amazon price is $45 shipped, you're going to sell for $40 shipped. So immediately you already lost $5 on every unit. So there's a lot of economics to that. I was chatting with somebody this morning. They're like, how come there's not more mid-series Neo woofers? And I was like, it's the economics of it. And the other thing is, if you're going to buy that much Neo for a production run of subwoofers, you actually affect the price. When you're making an order like that of, say, let's just say a small order, which is 300 drivers, and each one's good for 500 watts. That's actually quite a bit of Neo relative to what, say, Beats, right? Beats headphones owned by Apple would purchase. So it's a chunk, but it's nothing compared to what they buy. But, and of course, when they buy something, it's a big thing. But the economics of it is that their cost of production, you're talking about maybe $1, maybe $2, and then they do direct sales for, like, whatever those things cost, $250, $300, $1,200, whatever they charge. That's a huge markup, and that's one of the reasons why it's kind of a sad thing, because, like, if you purchase Apple stock, you have faith that they're going to keep ripping the public off. That's really what you're buying into, right? Because that's what Apple does, is they just take advantage of your narcissism and your self-importance and your quest for status. And that's what's represented by their products. And so that's what they're betting on. So, but lots of billionaires bet on that stuff. Like Bill Gates bet on people being lazy. So if you got Windows with your computer, why would you spend $100 to $200 on an operating system when you have a perfectly good one that you got for free, right? And that's what he did. Some people call that efficiency. Some people call it laziness. Either way, that's how he made his money. So he got his product in, and then you go, oh, well, we have this upgrade, and oh, you got to have the newest one, blah, blah, blah. And then they start playing hardball when they discontinue support for stuff. Like Windows XP is a perfectly good DOS-based operating system. It's wonderful, and it's pretty fucking stable. It's also very, very popular, and it's still used by the military. However, for the public, it is not supported. And then there's even websites by Microsoft that's like, warning, do not download this, you'll get a virus and all this other stuff, and a bunch of bullshit. So and they're even doing the same thing that they did back in the 90s, which is where they go, oh, you need a computer upgrade if you're going to get Windows 98, So now they're saying with Windows 11, you're going to have to get a hardware update, which I'm like, the hardware is already like lightning fast. Serious fucking over 2 gig fucking processor. Oh my God. Tons of RAM, and you need an upgrade? Like, what the fuck are you trying to process? Sorry about that. I get a little excited. What is this? MB Court with ADS amps. Good combo. That was another one, is MB Court. So when you look at some of the things that they would build, like one of the things that they harped on a lot was having a non-ferrous frame, non-magnetic frame, which you go, okay, so what's strong or strong enough? Non-ferrous, because steel frame is very ferrous. Aluminum frame is slightly ferrous. But plastic, which they used a nylon, it was like a reinforced nylon injection mold frame, is completely non-ferrous. However, it's insanely cheap to make once you set up the tooling. And that's why they used it. Again, it was about profit margin. It's not about technology, but they use that against you because they think, they tell you, oh, stamp frame is bad. Stamp frame is great. Stamp frame is very affordable. It's very strong. It just can't be pushed, it can't be super heavy without having a support yoke. But that's true of any woofer, right? I had somebody the other day, I said, hey, I recommend 8-inch spider frame. So I recommended the 12-spoke, the 4-spoke, and then even the U series that Sundown uses. And the guy says, no, I've seen too many U series subs break at the frame. And I was like, it's because they put a big fucking motor on there, and you're supposed to know to put a support yoke on it in the enclosure. Is it a little difficult? Yes. Is it kind of a pain in the butt? Yes. So, but that's going to happen to anything. I've seen TI frames do that. I've seen all kinds of people kill frames, when they go over a bump, especially like off-road guys. Off-road guys get mad when the woofer jumps out of the fucking box and it rips all the number 10 screws out, and they go, hey, this is a cheap piece of shit. I'm like, oh, you're an idiot. So, and there's lots of idiots. So there's no shortage of that supply. What else? What is this? There's Marky again. Oh, sorry, Mark. There you go. Let's look at that brace face. There you go. Grown man with braces. Nothing better. And then here it is, the Xtantiali. Oh, good Lord. That's the terrible pun. Great looking amps. They're just fan cooled. And then this is a steel shroud that covers that. Again, the reason why they use steel is because it's cheaper. Not sure if this was stainless. Because we've actually had some that I think had rust on them. So again, I'm not sure. I would love to hear somebody like Rick Fix talk about this sort of thing. So, because what's great too about a lot of the local engineers, like let's say, because Rick and Bob did work at PPI. So you're like, well, how would they know about the way that Xtant was building amps? Well, because they buy samples. And also a lot of times, sometimes you can get a professional courtesy by getting a sample over from a colleague at another company, but typically that's in the budget, is to just buy a sample retail. And then that way, it's not tainted. This is exactly what say Hyphonics is delivering. So like in the case of Lightning Audio. So I think it's called the LA3000D. It was from Lightning Audio. It was back in the mid-teens, tens, whatever, like 2010, 2011, or something like that. And when they first started importing the boards, if you open them up and look inside, all Rockford did was put a piece of black tape over the Hyphonics label. They were made by the same build house that builds for Hyphonics, and they even used the same boards. Yeah. So whenever I get these guys that they're like, I had some guy yell at me the other day. He's like, no way can you compare your amps to... First of all, these are not my amps that I'm selling. These are not mine. I did not design them. All I did was, I didn't design anything. All I did was I go, how much is this? Okay. What's my margin? Okay. How many can we order? Okay. And then I put the thing up for sale. And then I give you guys the option to buy these with no branding so that you can double your money or even triple your money. The same way that Hertz, Audison, Sundown, and all those guys do. What's funny is I get guys that I would really love to know the truth about what they're thinking, but the problem is I don't think they even know what they're thinking. They're just angry at the fact that, number one, someone is challenging an established brand. Like, again, I don't think Sundown's a very established brand, but let's say Sundown. They're like, how can you challenge Jacob's, engineering? And I'm like, you don't even know what's really going on at Sundown. I do. And I do because I've talked to many, many engineers at MTX, PPI, Orion, and JL Audio, and they all do the same fucking thing. So again, you're not creating the wheel. You're just finding something and then rebadging it the way that you want it to. What's great about what I'm doing is nobody else is doing it because they're like, wow, Patrick, you're really giving up the option to build a brand. And I go, I don't want to build a brand this way. I want other people to build their own brand. And the way that you do that is I am the heavy, meaning I do the heavy lifting. I'm the one that imports them. I'm the one that tests them for you. And then I can drop ship them to your client with your return address on them. So now I'm doing distribution for you as well. And if you want to include a sticker pack, I'll include a sticker pack. So I did the same thing for EM Audio. It's not difficult. It's just not talked about. And so a lot of people don't think it exists when it does. So, and they get mad that I'm challenging the status quo, that somehow Jacob and company are the only ones that, build and test amps. They're not. There's like 100 other people that do the same fucking thing. So, but most of them are just ignorant about what goes on in the industry. And sometimes I entertain the comments. Sometimes I just ignore them, and it's crazy. So Sam Zamora of Xtant, Clarion, I'm not impressed by any demo car because you have to do something really amazing in order to impress me. And none of this stuff it's been done for years. Again, this is from 1995. This is what they were doing in 95. Can you imagine what they can do now? See? There you go. Macintosh, same thing. They most likely did not even make this. They just put their brand on it. And then this is a good driver. It's not magic, but let's see. Does it have the MSRP? No. You look at all the features and you can see this on at least a dozen other woofers. What they probably did was have a high-end company like at the time Seas or was it Vifa? Somebody like that, and they go, hey, we want something a little unique looking. Can you provide it for us? And they go, yeah. And so when you go to a big company like that has manufacturing already set up, then you can build something like that looks very high-end, but it's still very low cost, and it's still not China. So sometimes in China, they just don't care as much or have as high of, standards as a discerning client would want from a brand like Macintosh. And so that's where you go to the Danes. And again, all the Danes do is they just really train their Chinese people like, hey, this is acceptable. Hey, this is not acceptable. And all that does is it adds another layer of cost. So the products are slightly more expensive than China, but they're still basically China woofers. So they instead of doing 100% QC, China will only do like 10% QC. Like they'll only test 10% of the drivers because for them they're like, yeah, good enough. And for the most part, it is good enough. So, and it's just one of those things where it's an economics thing. How much input versus output do you want on your investment? So that's where that comes from. Same thing. For many, many years, JL Audio did not build their own woofers. They paid Gefco for a while, which is gone now. And I know this because Bruce George, local stereo bass guy, did the same thing. He had his own woofers made. I forget what they were called, but he owned Sounds by George. And, he filled up his car with a bunch of woofers and people go, wow, these sound great. And it's basically the same woofer as whatever this was, the W3 or W6. And, his cost on them was, say, $25, and he was selling them for $200. So, which was still $50 cheaper or $100 cheaper than what JL was selling theirs for. Same woofer, $50 to $100 cheaper. Great margin, though, for Bruce. So, the problem with that at the time was that once you saturate the local market, where did you go from there? And at the time, I don't think he was wanting to really get into car audio, again, because the type of people that you deal with, very poor, relatively poor. And the big, drug dealer type spends and builds are quite rare. And so I think he ended up selling everything and then moving into real estate. So, and now he's a landlord and he's fully retired. It's fucking great. Eclipse, same thing. I think this is actually prior to not JL, was it TC Sounds. So this might have been a China woofer. I'd love to know if anybody knows for sure. I'm just going by common assumptions about the industry. Again, this looks China. Cliff Designs wasn't even really that great of I thought they kind of had a different look on stuff by using carbon fiber for some of their drivers, and then they got bought by Anaba. And so they were part of the Anaba USA family of brands. So Fultron, Sherwood, Matt's Wave Drive. Again, this was the version that I could afford, but even that was too expensive for me. And yeah, 300 watt RMS woofers. There's the Sapphire. I think I just like the white frame. Sometimes that would do it for selling stuff. This, of course, I could never afford. And 600 RMS, what? And see, here's the cutaway that shows you underhung. And underhung is also bullshit. Overhung is way better. It handles abuse better. It performs slightly better. But mostly the improvement is having a larger, heavier coil that can take more abuse. And in car audio, that's what you want. Is a underhung less distortion? No, it's actually not. So it's the same relatively stupid linear motor. These are terrible linear motors. They're not efficient at all when you look at it from an engineering standpoint. But most linear motors don't play frequencies the way that these do. And typically, a loudspeaker is only 10% efficient, meaning you put in 100 watts and you only get 10 watts of mechanical output. So they're not very efficient as far as the conversion of electricity to mechanical motion. But it's they're very cheap to make. And people like them, so they've accepted it, and so that's why we keep making them. So you can actually make sound in a bunch of different ways, but this way is very, very cheap. I think Larry F. was talking about that, about the Cyclone subwoofer, about why nobody's brought it back or done their version of it. It's because it's very expensive. Again, the return on investment for something like this for Rockford, you're talking about $10 input, because they were selling these to their employees at $1 an inch is what these used to go for at the employee sale. So this looks like a 15. No, it's a 12. So this will go for $12 at the employee sale. And that's typically about what their cost was on them. Yeah. And then they, would sell them to the dealer for 50 to 80, depending on how much volume you were doing. And then the dealer would make the real points, the retailer, because then they would turn that $50 to $80 investment into $249, plus installation. And the local municipalities AKA the city or the county or the state likes this because that's where they collect the taxes on, is the big portion of that purchase. So just so you know. Those look cool. I just didn't like Jensen, so I wouldn't mind taking that and then you just put a new dust cap over it, and you go, oh, this is a home audio low distortion long throw driver, and that's what a lot of companies did. So, by the way, Earthquake's version, I did like Earthquake used cast frames, but typically this is like a PA frame. Again, at the time, that's all that was available. Typically, if you used a cast frame, it was a really big marketing thing. Because the cost of production is about 10x, meaning a stamp frame cost about $1, and then a cast frame would cost about $10. Those aren't the actual costs, and of course those vary, but that's the kind of the ratio difference between production costs. So that's a lot of the reasons why, like this, I was talking about this yesterday about Oz. They touted having what is it? Just see if they say it in there. Baked metal flaked lacquer finish. Mineral-based polypropylene cones. Okay, so what does that mean? Mineral-based. Mineral, like mineral oil, as in petroleum, as in plastic? Yeah, that's all it is. But one of the things they talked about was having, for some reason, talc and mica impregnated into the, again, talc and mica are both just minerals. That's all. They're just rocks. So good job, Oz. And then they would put this little sticker on it. Sometimes it was a screen print, but most of the time it was a little sparkly sticker. And you have a jig and you have some lady that's good at details, and she would put that little sticker on there. And they flip it over, put the sticker on the back, and that's it. Now it's an Oz Audio, and now it sells for a bunch of money. So looking for the dick. I don't see it. Can't see it. Always checking for the dick. Always check for the dick, you guys. Don't get tricked like me. Centrec, again, all China, good enough, 300 watt subs. Again, all they did was they made in China as well, but they would just sell at a discount. The same way with Jensen, but sometimes, I don't know why, but like those brands like Jensen and Hot Shots, they try to do something that's a little too over the top. If you want to make a mark, you want to be, what's the word? There's a blend between being classy and being trashy, right? Like here, for example, this girl looks cute and she's considered cute. But if you look at this girl, trashy. What's the difference? It's very, very slight. Very, very slight. And that's what you want to look for when you're marketing a subwoofer, is you want to, pick up on little details. That's if you get into it. Again, the market is saturated. I don't recommend getting into it unless you're really, really knowledgeable about stuff, or you have really good marketing ideas. And that's why for me, I really want to launch a couple of brands that I have on the shelf in movies. That's where you launch it, where you get a lot of people all at once looking at your product. That's what you want. Because otherwise, if you're just slugging it out on the internet like Jizz Hog, like Scott Dildo, then it's a tough row to hoe. And typically, you're only going to saturate your local market, which of course lacks that sort of in between where it's cheaper than like say JL Audio or Rockford, but it's as good a quality or better than a similar product. And so that's where a lot of these small brands, I call them micro brands, but they're called cottage brands, where it's like, the way that RE Audio, Phi, Sundown, and it was just a dude in a warehouse, basically, get started. And sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they end up, like in the rumor that I heard about Jizz Hog was that they were selling drugs on the side or using their import power to import drugs as well. But again, that was just a rumor. That's unsubstantiated. It's just hearsay. I wouldn't gossip that around to everybody that Jizz Hog sells drugs. I don't want to say that. So, or I don't want to say that Scott Dilbeck got out because of that he couldn't risk his franchise of a high-end brand like Snap-on to be involved in something like that. That would be, dangerous to his livelihood. And I would never say anything like that. So, and as far as you know, I didn't say anything like that. Oh, my so-called life. Oh, she was such a cute little teenager. Was that I think that was the first openly gay character. And I love that he's on Star Trek now. He does a great job, but he's super gay. It's so funny. With that other guy from Adventures in Babysitting. The one that President, what was it? Kevin Spacey molested when he was like 14. It was like, you got to understand at the time. And also, when you were 14 in the 90s and gay, all that shit was on the DL. You couldn't tell anybody about that. And so, again, until people get open about other ways of living, other ways of being, you're always going to have weird taboos like that. So, just so you know. Mini disc, the future, not the thing. Oh, and then sidebar. Ugh, so disappointing. I was hoping for like a big PPI ending or something like that. Anyways, guys, I love you. It's been 40 minutes of your time. I hope you enjoyed this little adventure with me and a stroll back to 1995, where I wouldn't say they're trashy, but there's implications because there's two of them and they're showing off lots of leg, even though she's showing off more leg, right? See, it goes up to almost her butt hole. And then this is like mid thigh. So, but because there's two of them and they're both looking at you, the camera looking at you, it's implied that this is now a menage a trois, and this is just a fun, cute girlfriend. See? It's weird. And I tell you what, human sexuality is one of the weirdest things. And I love hearing some of the study work from people like Jordan Peterson and his group of peers. You'll learn a lot, is what I'm saying. You'll learn a lot, and you'll see that, again, all industries are driven by sex, driven by the sex drive. And that's why I want to be the first jizz mopper on the moon. I want to be the first janitor up there mopping up jizz. And you go, Patrick, why would you